Cars can be like time machines, a link to the past or a tight connection to a memory. But is any old car a classic?
And should clunkers get the same smog check exemption as collector cars? I-Team's Glenn Meek has been looking into a law that allows almost any older car to avoid an emissions test under the banner of being a classic.
Yeah, if it seems like you've been seeing a lot more cars with these classic plates lately,
Right. Yep.
Not your imagination. An I-Team investigation shows a nearly 300% increase in classic plates issued in Clark County over the past 2 years. Now, those plates allow a car to be registered without getting a smog check, and the raw numbers suggest a lot of people may be using that fact to avoid an emissions test.
Would you call this a classic car? How about this one? Is this car also a classic? Under Nevada law, all would be considered classics, regardless of the vast differences in their state of preservation or restoration. Practically any car in Nevada is eligible for some kind of classic vehicle license plate if it's more than 20 years old. These plates allow the car to be registered without a smog check, so long as the owner signs an affidavit every year certifying that the car hasn't been driven more than 5,000 miles over the past 12 months.
There aren't any really checks on that, however. It's pretty much the honor system. We don't have the authority to call people in just to check the odometers.
And I come to you today with Assembly Bill 2.
The law on classic vehicle plates was relaxed in 2011. The requirement for an initial smog check was removed, and the yearly mileage allowed was boosted from 2,500 to 5,000.
The bill was passed with the classic car collectors in mind. The testimony when that bill passed really didn't account for evaders.
How many emissions test evaders are getting classic plates is unknown, but statistics obtained by the I-Team show overall numbers have skyrocketed. Note there's only a slight increase in the number of classic plates issued in Clark County between 2010 and 2011 before the law changed. But after the removal of the initial smog check requirement, the numbers shot through the roof. A 278% increase in just 2 years.
Well, I think it, goes against the intent of the law, right? The intent of the law at least was to bring some of those older vehicles for car shows and things that people could showcase that had been in the family for a very long time. It was never meant for everyday travel. And that's why we put the mile restriction on there.
Assembly Speaker Marilyn Kirkpatrick sponsored the 2011 law that eased the rules on classic plates. She took this picture of a pickup truck with classic plates that she thinks typifies something that's lawful, but not what her legislation intended. And there are others.
The other day I seen one, classic plates, no brake lights, looked like it, didn't need to be on the road. So yeah, it is a little alarming.
Somebody's stake bed work truck that's full of metal junk is not a classic car.
Collector car owner Dan Meter is bothered to see classic plates on what appear to be beaters. He keeps his car in top shape and drives it sparingly.
I'll let them look at the odometer. But what about all the other people? They're not looking at them, any of them, when they renew them.
County officials say it's practically impossible to determine whether the increase in unsmogged classic vehicles is affecting the valley's pollution problem. But Clark County is always struggling to keep pollution within federal limits. So anything that can affect air quality is a concern.
It'd probably be worth looking at to make sure that this isn't something that might potentially be putting us out of attainment with our EPA-approved emission reduction plan.
Now, Gary Bishop, an expert at the University of Denver, told me he does not think that classic plated cars are a significant pollution problem because they're a small percentage of the total amount of cars on the road. But Bishop does believe many people are getting classic plates to avoid the hassle of smog checks, even if their cars would pass. The plates cost an initial $42 and $10 a year after that, so a few years of skipping smog checks and the plates pay for themselves. As for how many people are getting these plates, driving over the yearly limit with essentially daily drivers, unknown. There's no verification mileage.
Suspicions confirmed, though. I see a lot of them.
There are.
Yeah.